the vital role that campaigns and elections play in the battle of ideas. We'll explore that and more on today's edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. I'm Brian Johnston, your host. This is where we talk about the right to life, on what it is and what you can do to defend it. As of late, we've been alerting you about the nature of the radical, pro-death Democrat Party. That's right. The Democrat Party has adopted abortion on demand as an essential element of who they are and what they advocate. They've gone beyond that. They're advocating for post-birth abortion, killing a baby after they're born, and they do it boldly and without conscience, and they expect you to just go along. The fact is that the Democrat Party is not what it once was. We're going to talk about in this program certain things in California that have taken place. We want to remind you of the legislation that's still moving forward in California as you listen in the spring of 2022. But we want you to know the principles behind them and why you will always need to be on guard, prepared for this battle. We're also going to be interviewing Sheila Green, who is Vice President of California Pro-Life. We'll be talking about the bills in particular. We've talked about it many times on California Pro-Life programming and on Life Matters. And wherever you are in the world, you can go back in the podcast and get an in-depth analysis. So make sure you look at previous podcasts at our podcast website. We go issue by issue. And the issue of infanticide is up right now in California. The governor has promised he'll sign tourist abortion for late-term abortions on healthy babies inside healthy mothers. They won't word it that way, but that is their policy. It's choice. Abortion because it's chosen. That's the actual meaning of choice. If they choose to kill a baby, you and the law should not have anything to say about it. So this is a very serious time in American history because this reflects a national move by the Democrat Party. At the end of the program, we're going to talk about what you can actually do. And what you have to be able to do is vote pro-life. In California Pro-Life's chapter bylaws, we make sure that we inform pro-lifers of where candidates stand. It's a lot of work. And this year we're going once again all the way down the ballot. You're going to hear why your local elections are so important and why you must be informed about how your local candidates for local office are going to vote, because that's where you can have the most power with your vote. So that being said, please join with Sheila Green and myself as we talk about this current battle. The right to life, it's a very specific thing, and it involves very specific words that have specific meaning. And we talk about that on this program a lot. There's a whole lot of violations of the right to life that people don't understand because they haven't thought it through. They think it's about their feelings about babies. By the way, I like babies. I think babies are cute. But that isn't the reason killing them is wrong, because it offends my feelings. Killing an innocent baby is wrong because that is a vulnerable human being dependent on others. And there's other vulnerable human beings dependent on others. And usually that's in a medical situation. And we're seeing medicine being perverted now since the Roe and Doe decisions, which authorized intentional medical killing of that vulnerable child throughout the United States and suspended the principles of the Hippocratic Oath. Because in the Hippocratic Oath, it says, I'll give no deadly medicine, even if asked. And in like manner, I will not cause a woman to have an abortion. In like manner means that is also the same principle. This is a vulnerable human being when they're most vulnerable. So for nearly 3,000 years, doctors swore they wouldn't be doing abortions. You know that's been changed. And now today we're going to talk about an even more extraordinary change in California law being proposed. And that is the proposal to legalize infanticide. AB 2223 is racing through the legislature. If you listen to our last program, we've talked about what you can do about that, regardless of what happens. Even if it passes and signed by the governor, tell your neighbors, because the dominant media culture is lying. The dominant media culture is reframing this. The dominant media culture is implying that natural loss of a child is being prosecuted and that needs to stop. But that isn't the case. If someone causes that child to die, that's what's on the books right now. So the media lies to you. If you haven't learned that yet, then welcome aboard. We talk about that a lot, the misframing, the intentional dropping of adjectives and twisting of modifiers in order to have their way. Now we're going to talk about, since we are looking at a primary season, what can you do about that? And I've got bad news. The bad news is many of those legislators that have voted for infanticide are in gerrymandered districts. What that means, it's going to be very hard to get them out of office because they control the system. But we've got good news. We want to fill you in on what you can do locally. There's a saying, all politics is local. And while they control the gerrymandered districts, they don't control your neighborhood yet. They want to, but they can't. And if you communicate with your neighbors and you understand what their agenda is for your local community, and Planned Parenthood has an agenda for your local community, for your school board, for your local high school, and you can stop them if you prepare now. So we're going to talk about what you can do to prepare for that. Sheila Green is Vice President of the California Pro-Life Council. She's joining me now. We're going to talk about how to find out, how you can find out locally who are the good guys running for the school board, who are the ones that are going to speak up in that school board session when Planned Parenthood says, we have a gift. You know, kids don't get enough health care. And so we're going to establish healthcare clinics on campus. It sounds so good to cash-strapped districts. Who will speak up to hold them accountable? If you don't find out now before they're elected, it's extremely difficult after they're elected if they, in fact, are endorsed by Planned Parenthood to get there. So we're going to talk about this upcoming election. We're going to talk about how you can identify the good local candidates and help us help others to elect good local school boards, city councils, county supervisors. That's where a lot of these decisions are made. We'll talk about that and more when we come back.
Life Matters continues after this.
You know, Life Matters is now heard on dozens of stations. If you'd like to help us with airtime, but also let us know where you're listening, text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 916-347-5644. It's very easy. It'll guide you through that. But you can help Life Matters stay on the air where you are. Text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. Tell us where you're listening. It's very important that we be wise with the resources we've been given. Text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. You're a real lifesaver. Thanks for standing for life. Life Matters couldn't exist without your help. That's text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644.
Well, hi. I just wanted to thank you for joining me. You know, I have good friends, children, young adults, and adults that have Down syndrome. And they are so loved. Their parents love them so much because they're the happiest people you'd ever want to know. I really love them. I'm going to tell you something, though, that's rather frightening. The government of France has now prohibited showing positive images of Down syndrome children and letting parents know how lovable they are. That's an actual law in France. Here in the U.S., 80-some-odd% of Down syndrome kids are killed by abortion before they're born. In France, it's 96%. So we're not a whole lot better. If you'd like to help out, you can go to the National Down Syndrome Society, ndss.org, to help out. That's ndss.org. We really are in a battle of ideas, and lives really are at stake.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're talking about local politics. The reason we're focusing locally is that we're in a state that has been gerrymandered to favor the Democrat Party. If you didn't know that, then wake up and smell the coffee. We talk about that a lot here on Life Matters. And very few people understand that the Democrat Party itself is not the Democrat Party of JFK. It's not even the Democrat Party that Bill Clinton ran as president. This is the most radical Democrat Party of our lifetimes and ever in the history of the United States. They are 100% pro-abortion. And so the problem is when they gerrymander districts, it is the anointed Democrat that typically wins, the party Democrat. But all local offices are nonpartisan. That means you don't run as a Democrat or a Republican. You run as a nonpartisan individual. And what does that mean for us in California, Sheila? What does it mean for those who go to the polls?
Well, it's important, even though it is nonpartisan, it's important to still know what that candidate thinks about issues that pertain to the pro-life movement. The pro-life issue is relevant for the county supervisor. It is relevant for the school board. For instance, in the county supervisor situation, an abortion clinic may be trying to get into the community, and that county supervisor, that board of supervisors will decide. In the school board situation, Planned Parenthood may want to open up a quote-unquote health clinic, and it will be the school board that will decide. So just because the race is nonpartisan does not mean that the life issue is irrelevant. It's very much relevant to these local races.
That's exactly right. And so California Pro-Life, we've done this for years, and we're asking you to help us, to be involved. If you go to californiaprolife.org elections, you can begin the process in your community. There are people, but this is an incredible task. You can find out who's running. They're listed. You can find out their positions on the life issue. For example, for those school-based clinics, once Planned Parenthood is in there, no one is responsible for what happens. Literally, the principal of the school is not allowed to go into that. There are usually a couple of classrooms. They're not allowed to find out what is said. They're not allowed to find out if something's been distributed to the kids because the privacy of those kids must be protected. And so there's no accountability, even though your tax money pays for that school board and that schools, those classrooms, they pay for it. And yet you cannot know what's happening. And then if something has happened, there's no accountability. You cannot hold those people accountable. And so this is an incredible violation. And all that someone has to do on the school board is say, well, thank you for this offer when Planned Parenthood comes. You need to have someone on the school board that says, well, wait a second, will parents be able to know what goes on? And of course, the answer is no. So that's an important question that should be asked before they're authorized. Can parents find out? No. Well, then who's accountable for what goes on? Well, these are independent outside agents, and they don't answer to the school district. The school district cannot hold them accountable legally, believe it or not, even though they're paying for it. Again, like in the state of California, your tax dollars are paying for abortions right now, but there's no regulations of abortion. Does that make sense? In the world where abortion means freedom, to them it makes sense. It doesn't make any logical sense in terms of the use of your tax dollars and accountability of government. If these questions are asked at the right time, you can stop these clinics. I've seen it happen. So we're asking you to get involved. Go to californiaprolife.org. Go to californiaprolife.org. Find out who's running locally in your community and help determine who should be voted for by your friends. And in many of these school districts, one church literally literally one church can elect a school board member because some of these races are close. The difference is 10 or 12 votes, sometimes less. And if your church says, look, we need to make sure this guy who's pro-life goes to the school board because this lady here is with Planned Parenthood. So make sure that Bill Smith, let's vote for Bill Smith. Your church as a corporation cannot endorse Bill Smith, but you're not a corporation. You as an individual have every right to say, look, I want to vote for people who reflect my values. We want to help you do that. Sheila?
Sure. The first step is to actually find out what the values are of the candidates running, and we can help you with that. If you go to our website, californiaprolife.org, under the tab Voter Info, there's a link for 2022 candidate questionnaires. You can be a citizen activist. We have sample emails and we have questionnaires that you can send to candidates running for office and have them forward the email to the state office and that person, forward the questionnaire to the state office once they fill out the email. So it's really a matter of copying and pasting. And it's also very simple to find out who the candidates are. If you simply Google the name of your county, I live in Tuolumne, so Tuolumne County elections. If you Google that, you'll come to the elections page in your county. And there should be a candidate list in there. And oftentimes they have email addresses right there. And all you need to do is click on the email address for all the people running for a school board, say, copy and paste the sample email that we have on our website under voter info and attach the relevant questionnaire and send it off.
That's right. We're talking about your community, your town, your school board. If you don't care to make a difference, then who will? It'll be Planned Parenthood and people who think like them. So this is your chance. I believe this year is a great opportunity year because many people are waking up. They understand what the woke movement has been about, the radical misunderstanding of America that's being pushed on people, and particularly on the value of individual human life. Many things have not been done locally in California, which is why California has been controlled by the wrong-headed people. In states that are pro-life, I've been to these states, local pro-life people care about civics. They decide to understand and apply themselves to civics. We're going to show you how to do that. We were explaining how your local school board is incredibly important. Planned Parenthood has targeted school boards to invite them in. Bring in Planned Parenthood to help the kids. So they've targeted these school boards. If you have educated people on those boards that say, wait a second, we've got a few questions, you can stop them. How do we elect those people? If you go to californiaprolife.org, elections 2022, we have a listing there of you can download and put in your street address, your zip code. It'll tell you exactly who's running and who's pro-life. Make sure that when you vote and you vote pro-life, especially locally. Now, again, the bad news is on some of the higher offices, those are gerrymandered. And obviously, it doesn't matter. You should vote against the bad guys anyways, but I want to prepare you. It's harder to win those districts. It's really easy to win your school board races if you just put the effort in. And that's where you have the most dynamic input. We saw that in 2022 back east, where school boards were confronted by parents who said, what are you doing? This is a change culturally. Please go with the change. You can impact what's happening in your community. Sheila.
Yes, this is very true. And on the local level, as Brian mentioned, oftentimes they are determined by a very small number of votes. So just your local community group, whether it be your church, your friends, your family, your extended family, you can have a huge impact if everybody simply knows what time of day it is, knows which candidates are pro-life, and if we inform each other and steer our votes towards those pro-life candidates, it's quite easy to be successful on the local level.
That's right. And there's an old saying, all politics is local. Those local people then subsequently run for State Assembly, Senate, Congress. I know them. I've met them on both sides, by the way. They start locally. Be involved in your local community. You can change your community for life. You've been listening to Life Matters. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting California Pro-Life. If you have other questions, call 800-924-2490 or send an email to info@californiaprolife.org. That's info@californiaprolife.org. Thank you, Sheila. So when we come back, we'll talk about how this all fits together and how you can get people to vote pro-life all the way down the ballot, all the way, and you can stand for life.
Life Matters continues after this.
They say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Did you know that California has a law in the books that says you need to protect babies born alive in the course of an abortion? But that law is simply ignored. The current legislature and Governor Newsom's administration support all abortions all the time. And they simply do not examine or regulate the practice, even though our tax dollars pay for it. We need to shine a light on this cover-up of the abortion industry in our state. Go to californiaprolife.org and click on the Light of Day Project. We need the facts about late-term abortion to be examined and made known. We need the government doing its job to protect lives. We need the light of day on this. Go to californiaprolife.org.
Well, now we have a special opportunity for Life Matters listeners wherever you are. You can be on the air. That's right. If you have a question for Life Matters, we have a special way for you to ask that question. Tell us where you're listening from, speak slowly and clearly, and you can record a message. Go to lifematters.life. That's lifematters.life. Scroll to the bottom of the page, and there you'll see Send a Message to Brian Johnston. Using your computer's microphone, you can record a message, and it'll record clearly. You can't go longer than 90 seconds, but please feel free if you have a question or a comment. Make sure you keep it polite. We do have to edit, and we can't put impolite stuff on the air, but we do want to hear from you. That's lifematters.life. Scroll to the bottom of the page and give us your thoughts.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back. We're looking at a situation in California that the only way to change public policy in California is to change those who make public policy. And that's done through elections. Now, you may realize elections are hotly contested. Some people don't want to talk about elections. Some people think it's a Christian virtue to not be involved in politics. Nothing could be further from the truth. I'll mention this here. I know Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses say they're following the Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses say they specifically prohibit their membership from being involved in civic life. Now, that is a misunderstanding of the Bible. And to be perfectly honest, Jehovah's Witnesses themselves will admit they're not exactly a Christian. They love the Bible, but it's a religious view of the Bible. They are not actually following Christian doctrine. If you're a Christian and have studied Christianity, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very important that Christians be involved in the society in which they live. It's critically important, if you have moral and ethical values, that you be involved in the society in which you live. It's critically important that if you're pro-life and think babies should not be killed, that you be involved in the civic community in which you live, and you be an educated and enlightened voice as to why the laws should respect these innocent human lives. Planned Parenthood is your ideological enemy. They're going into high schools. They're going into grade level schools, teaching abortion. The only way to stop that is if you have a local school board that says, hang on a second, you're not teaching sound things. We don't want you teaching these things to our kids. We don't want you providing school-based clinics. Please go back to previous podcast on school-based clinics so you can understand just how insidious and dangerous these free gifts from Planned Parenthood are that are offered to your schools. They're insidiously destructive. They're dangerous beyond measure. We don't have time today to revisit that. Just know that it's happening in your community, and you need to prepare to stop it. If you've elected sound-thinking school board members, you will stop it. That's why these elections are so important. So go to CaliforniaProlife.org, go to elections, and you will see an opportunity to find out more about your local elections, local communities. Also go to events. We're having events throughout the state. These events are designed to help you be equipped, help others be equipped. Many of these events, I'm giving out free copies of my book about Roe and Doe, the evil twins. Hopefully we're going to see Roe overturned. But if you don't know what Roe and Doe have done, you won't understand what the Supreme Court is doing. Likely, the Supreme Court, their ruling will not even touch on the laws of California because, sadly, people have been disengaged from the laws of California. The people who should care have not been involved in civics. We want to encourage you to do that, so go to events at the California Pro-Life website, californiaprolife.org, and you can find out where there's a local pro-life event that brings together pro-life community members. We talk about what can be done locally before the elections and how you can change your community locally. That's californiaprolife.org, events, and of course go to californiaprolife.org, elections, to find out more who's who and who you should vote for in the coming election and who your friends and family that are pro-life, who they should vote for. Thanks for listening.
If you have questions or comments for Life Matters, call 800-924-2490. Give us your name and the town you're calling from and a quick question or comment. Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life. Wherever you are in the nation, you can find out more at National Right to Life. You can find vital pro-life information and also find the access to your state and local Right to Life affiliate. Get informed and get involved.